So I know. If you've watched some of my previous videos, you know that I was wrong when it came to GameCube and Virtual Boy games coming to Switch Online expansion pack. I was wrong about that stuff. However, I don't think Wii games are going to become around. People are going to be like, "But EC, you already got it wrong twice. Why?" Well, I'm either going to jinx it and they're going to bring the Wii games over, or they're not going to bring them over, and I'm going to be right. So let me explain the problem. So people will point out the fact that GameCube games have come over, and that is true. GameCube games have come over, but most of the well-known GameCube games weren't already available on Switch in a way. So basically, with GameCube, I believe they remastered Thousand Year Door, Paper Mario Thousand Year Door, and that was the only real major GameCube game they remastered, which shows, obviously, there was an interest in GameCube content on the Switch platform. Obviously, they brought GameCube games to Switch too. Cool. Now, with the Wii, it's a bit more complicated, because you already have games that are very similar to Wii games, or outright Wii games, available on the Switch or Switch 2. So, for example, you have the Super Mario Galaxy bundle, Mario Galaxy 1 and Mario Galaxy 2. Those two games are some of the most high-profile Wii games, and they're available on Switch now. You also have Donkey Kong Country Returns HD, which, like I said, another high-profile Wii game that's been ported to the Switch. And also, in this case, I'll argue it's the better version because it took out all the motion controls. And obviously, who wants to use motion controls when they're trying to do it like a hard as nails 2D platform? I know it does add to experience in some cases, but it also just, in some cases, I think it just kind of doesn't really work out. And then also, we have this. I know this is not technically a Wii game, but we have Nintendo Switch Sports, which is very similar to Wii Sports in a way. It is in the same series, and it is continuing on with what Wii Sports originally did. Now, when you look at other Wii games that are notable, also we have Skyward Sword HD. Skyward Sword HD, which is obviously Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD, being the HD remake of, or HD remaster of the, favourite Zelda game on the Wii. So really, what's left to bring over? What is left to bring over for a Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack? Or even something more high profile? Because the thing is, these games are going to be expensive. These games will have a higher subscription cost, because obviously what these games are. And would Nintendo really want to risk potentially alienating sales of these games, or a subscription? Because the thing is, these games would still sell. They still look quite good, and they're very easy to upgrade to modern standards when it comes to graphics. So really, upgrading them just makes sense. Likewise as well, you already have, Zelda Skyward Sword, you have, the Mario Galaxy games, you have Donkey Kong Country Returns. There isn't really much else really in the Wii library, in my opinion, that they can bring over that's going to cause a massive stir. For example, Wii Sports, we already have, a game like Wii Sports on the Switch and Switch 2. Likewise, we also have, a new Smash Bros, which obviously Smash Bros Ultimate is seen as the definitive Smash Bros game. So I know people were like, I want to play Smash Bros Brawl. I understand there's fans of that game. I'm not saying they won't bring it over. I'm just saying I don't really see how just that one game could really warrant a new subscription tier, because let's also be real, the Wii's probably one of the harder systems for them to emulate as well, due to the motion controls. Now, but it's not that I don't believe they could do it with systems like obviously the Switch and Switch 2, because the Switch 2 and Switch both have obviously Joy-Cons that have motion controls, and they do function as mini Wii remotes in some cases, like if you look at games like 1-2 Switch, or Nintendo Switch Sports, for example. It's very clear that these games will actually work fine. It's just the idea that actually emulating the game would, in my opinion, probably be quite hard, because obviously you'd have to get all the same controls and all the same buttons, and obviously with there being motion controls, obviously they're probably going to be quite hard to emulate compared to something similar like your standard A/B button combination you'd have with something like the NES. I mean, I would like to see Wii games on Switch Online. I would like to see Wii games on Switch Online expansion pack. I'd like to see these classic games made available, because obviously the Wii is one of the systems I grew up with as a kid. But I also feel like there's very limited stuff they could really bring over from the Wii now, because obviously they've got some of the most high profile games are already on Switch and Switch 2, and the actual having to emulate and make an emulation good quality, and also the fact these games could easily be remastered and are easily resold for $60, $70, $80, whatever they're charging for their games now. I don't see Nintendo bringing these games over, and at least not in the form of an expansion pack tier, especially when the expansion pack's like $50 a year. They'd either up that price massively, have a third tier of the service, and obviously, as it's in the Game Pass, having multiple tiers of a service, more than 2 tiers is a bit confusing. I don't know. I just don't think this is really likely. But let me know what you guys think. Do you guys think that Nintendo is going to bring these classic Wii games over to Switch Online expansion pack? Do you think they're going to stay on the Wii for another generation? What do you guys think? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. If you need to make sure you subscribe and like and all that sort of stuff. I've been EC and I'm signing out. Peace.